Okay, go ahead.
And welcome back to ESN Connect. I'm your host, Aaron Fleischman. We have a very special guest with us today, Dr. Pehong Chen, CEO of BroadVision. Pehong Chen, thank you very much for coming on with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Aaron.
All right, well, let's jump right into it. In today's Web 2.0 age, the IT and web markets are changing dramatically. Where does BroadVision fit in? How is it unique and different?
Well, indeed, BroadVision has been in business for over 16 years. We were one of the original pioneers of this e-business era, if you will. And indeed, over the last few years, especially with the advent of Web 2.0, I think companies in general and IT in particular really are now facing a new generation of users as well as a new generation of technologies that they have to really come to grip with in terms of how to harness all that and apply them to their business and in providing their employees and their partners and customers with a lot of a new sort of paradigm in order to move forward and be effective in their management of their business.
Right. And Clearvale is our newest product. It's an ESN solution. How did it come about? How did you decide to create it? And how does it fit in with Web 2.0 and how Web 2.0 is being user-oriented?
You see, yeah, that's a very good question, because the traditional enterprise, whether it's the management paradigm or the management systems or tools behind those management paradigm, tends to be sort of more of a top-down, process-oriented approach. Now, BroadVision has been in the e-business for supporting those type of business processes for many, many years. And our goal has always been taking a sort of one-to-one personalization approach, meaning it is really the user's effectiveness that's really at the center of the sort of issue, rather than all the complex business things sort of behind the scenes. Those things, of course, have been addressed for a very long time, but not until the web becomes sort of popular with the companies and users was it possible for us to be pushing all these things directly in a much more simplified way to the end user. So we've been really leading the charge in terms of making things simple, easy, personalized for the end user. Now, your question about, so how does that relate to the Web 2.0? And the Web 2.0, different from Web 1.0, is that Web 1.0, for the most part, still sort of mirrors the traditional business management paradigm. But in the Web 2.0 era, especially as we have seen a lot of these social sort of effects, social media, is a complete sort of revolutionized approach for how people want to do things. You look at the ability for people to have a grassroots, sort of democratic, and often probably much more innovative approach about doing things or addressing questions, come out with creative solutions in a way that is often at odds with this traditional top-down hierarchical model. So what we have done here in Clearvale is in providing that environment, that platform, that's very conducive to companies and their all their constituents to do business in that bottom-up sort of social connected way that would basically facilitate a lot more collaboration and communication. But while doing so, noticing and coming really from a historical background is in providing additional business processes so that you can create this nice balance between a structured way of doing business versus a somewhat ad hoc or unstructured way of doing business. I believe that when you can mash those two together, then you have a very, very compelling paradigm going into the future for business management.
Absolutely. Can you give us a real-world example of just how beneficial and valuable Clearvale has been for our company and maybe for a client's company, or how you can see it being beneficial for a client's company?
Yeah, that is really quite intriguing, in fact, because we've been, of course, like I said, been in this business for 16 years, so we know enterprise, and we know how enterprise uses e-business like the commerce or portal technologies to improve their business process. However, it is very kind of intriguing because when we started this Clearvale initiative about a year ago, we've obviously been implementing that within our own company. And I've been able to observe also just how different or how this transformation has been from the traditional sort of top-down, where company drives all the content through your e-business website in the 1.0 fashion, versus this new Clearvale representing the 2.0 version, where it's primarily driven by what's known as user-created content, UCG, and how much more fun, and I would say also creative, and in many respects productive, this can be compared to the old top-down paradigm. I mean, in the total top-down paradigm, you will have perhaps just a few individuals within your organization designated to be publishing content, whether it's your employee website, B2E, or your customer-facing website, B2B or B2C. But noticing our own experience, when we launched Clearvale earlier this year, just within a week, we saw 500 pieces of content created from all, sort of corners of the world from our organization, all walks of life, from different types of users and employees. Now we have a number of networks now established on Clearvale, many of them for our employees, and especially groups, within the company for attacking a project, addressing a customer situation, closing a deal, town hall meetings, a whole variety of use cases, as well as outside, what's known as extranet. For example, we're managing we're bringing in a number of our consultants from China over here to work for our client project. So there's a whole series of visa applications that we have to work with a lot of different agencies. So we use that to manage our vendor and supplier relationships. We also are doing marketing now with consumers out there for this Clearvale application. So it's B2B, B2C, B2E, you name it, everything. And it's such a great learning experience that I truly believe has benefited us tremendously, and I believe would benefit our customers and Clearvale users as well.
You're the CEO of BroadVision, and you've got one of the top blogs on the Clearvale site. How do you find the time to go on to Clearvale, and how easy is it to use Clearvale for you?
Addressing your last question first, it is really, really easy. I mean, believe it or not, I set up my own network for a nonprofit organization that I'm now a vice chairman of, literally within 30 seconds myself.
Right.
Even though I used to be a programmer in my past life, I can assure you that since I stopped programming about 30 years ago, hasn't been this gratifying that I can actually get something done of substance with such ease. Used to be able to write a lot of great programs, but like I said, haven't done that for a while. But anyway, so that part is really great, because my view is that in an enterprise, when you have a lot of sort of these kind of dynamics and often transient projects, things that come and go, task force, focus groups, this event, that event, so on and so forth. These are golden little nuggets that you need to be able to capture and provide them with some workspace to collaborate, because often team members are all over the world. And you often find this kind of micro sites, if you will, very difficult for IT to provide support for, because they simply are overloaded and they don't have time for this kind of. So you truly need something that end users like you and me can just go and create and set up, and then boom, and work on it immediately for communication, collaboration, etc., etc. So I believe that this kind of grassroots sort of work-related collaboration and social connectivity and social relationships, their inherent business value is going to go far beyond. We are just really at the cusp of this, but just going to go far beyond what we have seen on Facebook or or Twitter on the consumer side. We're just really, in other words, seeing the beginning, the tip of the iceberg for how people can apply this kind of technology in business. And Clearvale really, really is the leading edge